Hi everyone, it's James here. Welcome to another video. So today is going to be a contest entry for Richard McCook, 3 years on the VC. Many congratulations, Richard. You are a wonderful asset to the vinyl community and a great friend. So it's been a pleasure to know you these last 3 years and an honour to enter your contest. So Richard's got a 3 theme running through his contest, so let's get started. The first thing he wants us to do is to show 3 favourite artists and show the best and the worst album by that artist. Now I'm going to be very subjective about this. I'm not going to go for best and worst, I'm going to go for favourite and least favourite. And with all 3 of these, I'm not going to say that the least favourite is a bad album, I'm just going to say it's my least favourite. Okay, so the first one is Thomas Dolby, who I've been really into for many years. This is his first album, The Golden Age of Wireless, which came out in 2 separate editions. And the first edition did not feature the hit singles She Blinded Me With Science and One of Our Submarines Is Missing. They were hit singles after that, and then the album got re-released with those on. This is the original version, which does not contain those songs. Opens with The Wreck of the Fairchild. So Dolby was a pioneering synth pop artist who did very kind of original, edgy little new wave songs using Fairlight synths. His first album I still think is his best. It's certainly my favourite. It's a record that meant a lot to me back in the day. So there we go, Thomas Dolby. Now my least favourite, I think, and it's a bit of a shame to say it, but my least favourite is probably his comeback album, which came out in 2011, and it's called A Map of the Floating City. It's a fine album, and it's one that I do listen to. It's enjoyable, but it's not particularly memorable. In fact, looking at the track list now, I can't hear any of the songs in my head when I look at the track list. If I was to put it on, I would go, oh right, yeah, and I would enjoy it, but I just don't think this album, maybe he wasn't intending it to be memorable, you know, it's more of a kind of adult contemporary kind of sound. There are still some electronic touches, and there's still a little bit of musical subversion going on, but overall this album is not one that's got under my skin as much as the others. Often it's the way, isn't it, with newer albums, they tend not to work their way under your skin in the way that previous ones did. There might be an argument for saying that Aliens Ate My Buick is his worst album, so cool, because the album doesn't quite gel, it doesn't quite work. There's a few things wrong with it, but it's a record that I am really fond of from my misspent youth, so I'll go with that one. But don't let that put you off. If you ever see this record in the wild, grab it. It's a perfectly fine Dolby album, just not his best. Okay, the next artist I'm going to feature is somebody whose records I've bought for many years, and this is my favourite album by him. There's a bit of a story attached to it. This is Robert Plant and his album Lullaby and the Ceaseless Roar, which would have come out a fair few years ago now, 2014. I bought it, and I didn't like it at first. I put it on my iPod, and then it was a very dark, horrible winter, and there was a thing going on where my older son, who was then only about 7 or 8, he got into this thing of wanting to go for walks all the time, and this was including in the depths of winter. And there was one particular walk which we used to do every single night, and it was really horrible. Lashing rain, and just, you know, we would get soaking wet, freezing cold. And my son wasn't one for conversation particularly, he just liked to walk and enjoy the walking. So I would listen to this record, and I went through a phase of listening to it every single night, and this went on for weeks. And I just got really into it. It's a very immersive record. Don't think about Led Zeppelin. You know, it's Plant in his more modern incarnation. It's kind of, you know, a bit of world beat, world music, kind of think Afro-Celt sound system. A bit more mellow than that maybe. Just really well done. You know, his vocals are just superb. He's just got this delivery now which is just very kind of hypnotic, and he goes for these quite hypnotic kind of sounds and trance-like arrangements, traditional instruments mixed in with the synths. I don't know, it's just a fantastic record, I think. And unfortunately I did kind of overdose on it, and I listened to it so many times that you know, I don't really need to hear it ever again. But I'd still say overall that's the Robert Plant album which has meant the most to me. And this one, I feel a bit bad about putting this one as the least favourite, because it is the one which is commonly accepted, maybe I think, as his worst album. And this is Shaken and Stirred, which was the first record, sorry, this is the second full solo album he made after Zeppelin broke up. And it was him really going off the deep end into synths and trying to be ultravox. Came out in 1985. It's an okay album, it's got some good stuff on it, I've got to be honest. The track, what was it? Little by Little on side 2. Really great track actually, really great pop song with some fantastic drumming by Richie Hayward from Little Feat, I think he's on here. But overall it's definitely a record where I think Plant he kind of went too far into the realm of synth pop, lost his identity, I think, to an extent, became a bit homogenised. On the third album he pulled right back on that and went back to making music which was maybe a little bit more in his ballpark. But still, again, you know, not a terrible record, and one which is definitely worth hearing if you haven't heard it, but it's of its time in a way that I think most of his other albums, well, he did a couple of other albums which were of their time, thinking Now and Zen and Manic Nirvana in particular. But the songs on those records seem to have, you know, a bit more of an identity. This one, less so. This one to showcase is a great favourite of mine, and it's John Cale from the Velvet Underground, obviously. Now, Cale's best album probably is Paris 1919, which is known as a classic. Also the album Fear from 1974 is a great one too. This one I'm going to go with, this is Slow Dazzle, and it's just my personal favourite. I've got some very personal associations with it. When my second son was born, I used to push him around the streets in the buggy, and I would listen to this record, and there's something about it. Just the track list on this album, Mr. Wilson and Taking It All Away, the first 2 tracks, just really great little pop songs. Then it goes a bit kind of traditional. You got Dirty Ass Rock and Roll and Darling I Need You, which kind of stray into almost, you know, Elvis territory or Fats Domino or whatever. Really good fun. Heartbreak Hotel, stunning version of that on side 2, really scary. Ski Patrol is a great little pop song. I'm Not the Loving Kind is a wonderful ballad. Guts is a really good rocker. And then you've got this extraordinary monologue at the end, kind of weird, messed up sci-fi thing called The Jeweler. I don't know, it's just one of those great kind of cult albums from the mid-1970s, and I've always loved it. This record as well, it's one of the first records I bought after discovering the vinyl community, and it was probably in my first ever vinyl finds video. I got it on CD already, but this is one of the ones which where I was, you know, really started to get back into vinyl again. And now, I don't know if this is his worst album. I think this is his least memorable. Again, really great cover art though. This is Artificial Intelligence, which came out in, I don't know when it was, 1980 something, and it's John Cale trying to be the Talking Heads. You know, lots of artists from that period tried to be the Talking Heads, and nobody quite succeeded in doing it, quite like the Talking Heads did. I think, again, the material is not all that memorable. He had a songwriting partner on this record. I forget the guy's name. The songs are okay, but it's definitely not one to start with if you're trying to explore John Cale. It's, I'd say, one of his lesser albums. Having said that, I've probably not listened to it enough times. You know, with all these, I could go back and listen to them tomorrow and decide I love them. But for the purposes of this contest, I shall go with that one. Artificial Intelligence by John Cale. Okay, round 2. So in round 2, you've got a show. I might have got these the wrong way round in terms of rounds 2 and 3. I can't quite remember. I'll go with this first. Three artists who you've got albums by them, but you could actually just get away with the greatest hits collection, or maybe you don't even have an album by them, you've only got the greatest hits and that's all you need. So I pulled out 3. These are, well, 2 of them are quite kind of obvious ones. The third one is maybe a bit less obvious. So I'll go with the Hollies. Nothing against the Hollies at all, but I never see their albums around. I don't know anything about their discography, and they just strike me as being a singles band. I could be mistaken. Maybe there's a great Lost Hollies album out there somewhere that somebody could tell me about, but I only ever see the best ofs, and I've actually got 2 different best ofs of the Hollies. This is one of them, and you know, it's got Bust Up on it by Graham Gouldman. It's got He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother, which is a bit overplayed, isn't it? Let's face it. And just standard issue Hollies Fair, you know, good little Manchester band, but not one who I'm particularly interested in collecting. unless somebody can tell me otherwise. Quite similar for the Animals, actually. I saw Randy Nelson show the Trogs, and that was a band that occurred to me as well. And the Animals and the Trogs, I guess they've sort of got something in common. I mean, the Animals came first. Obviously, they were part of the British invasion, weren't they? And the Trogs came a little bit later. They were more heading into the psych years. But the Animals, I don't think of the Animals as being an albums band. You know, I'm not aware of any Animals albums which are meant to be great classics. It could well be that there are some. If there are, I'm not aware of them, and I'm quite happy with that. In fact, I think I've got another one. I've got 2 Animals compilations, but that's one of them. So there we go. Now the third one, could be a bit controversial, is Free. Now I do have a Free album. I've got Fire and Water, and it's a perfectly good album. I enjoy it. I like Paul Kossoff's guitar playing. How many times do I listen to it? Not that often. I think the song All Right Now is totally played out on the radio. Just heard it far too many times. So, in fact, that sort of is a reason for not having the best of, isn't it, in a way? But it's on this record anyway. I'm not a massive fan of Paul Rodgers. His voice, I don't know, it's not quite my thing. That kind of raspy thing. Never quite forgave him for trying to be the new singer in Queen either. Slightly puts me off him. I've got a CD compilation of Free, which I'm quite happy with. You know, this is going to stay in the collection. I'm not going to get rid of it, but I've got no plans to extend my Free vinyl collection anytime soon, so I thought I would go with that. Okay, and round 3 is to show 3 CDs which you would love to see a vinyl reissue of, or just a vinyl issue of, because they've not come out. So these are the 3 I'm going to go with. This is The Silver Seas and Chateau Revenge, which is a wonderful album. The Silver Seas, I think they used to be the Bees, didn't they? The main guy in the band is called Daniel Tashian. He's the son of Barry Tashian from the garage band The Remains, over on the Nuggets box set. This is not garage rock though, this is kind of beautiful, chiming indie pop. Really fantastic songs. The guy has got a real talent. There's a track on the album called What's the Drawback, which is an ELO homage, and it's got all the strings and just sounds like classic 1970s rock. The best track on the record though is probably The Best Things in Life. Check that out. The album after this, whose name escapes me now, did come out on vinyl, and I wasn't as keen on it, and I didn't actually get it on vinyl. This one did not come out, and I would love to have a vinyl copy of this. It'd be fantastic. Maybe it will happen. Maybe it has happened. I've not checked. All 3 of these actually, I've not checked to find out. I mean, for all I know, there is a 180-gram version of them lurking about. I don't know. My childhood hero, Andy McMaster, when he announced his comeback, this is the guy from the Motors, he announced his comeback a few years ago, and I got very excited wondering if his solo album would come out on vinyl, and it didn't. But it came out on CD, Agenda 21. Andy was gone from the music industry for at least 30 years, even more so, you know. Never thought I would hear anything from him again, and then he came out with that. And since then he's done a second album as well, which I don't like as much as this one, but that would have been nice to have had a vinyl issue. And the third one, I'm going to go with a record that I've talked about a couple of times on my channel over the years. There is a bit of a story attached to it, but I have told the story before, so I'll keep it very short. This is Candidate and their album Nuada. Now Candidate were a duo, Jason Hazley and Joel Morris, and interestingly they're the guys who, well, they're TV writers as well and book writers. They did a series of books here in the UK based on the Ladybird books, which was a series of books in the 1970s and the 1960s which are very famous. And Joel and Jason, they did a kind of like a spoof of these books, and it was a huge publishing phenomenon. It must have made them an awful lot of money. But prior to that, they'd done this project called Candidate, which it's music inspired by the film The Wicker Man, and it's got Burt Jansch on it, and it's a very atmospheric kind of folk type record. It's got a certain atmosphere to it. I don't think Candidate stuff came out on vinyl at all. I could be mistaken. That's a wonderful record, one of my all-time favourites. And the story which is attached to it, which is a bit strange, is that it turned out that I actually knew Jason and Joel, and they were work colleagues of mine, and I'd never put 2 and 2 together. I've been into this record, and it was one of my favourites. I'd listened to it non-stop for about 3 years, and then later on I discovered that during the period when I'd been into it, I actually knew the people in the band, and I just never twigged that it was them. How strange is that? But anyway, great record. Would be nice to have it on vinyl, but we shall see. So there we go, Richard. Hope that's okay for you, and hope you enjoyed that entry, everybody. And I look forward to seeing more entries. There's a huge number of entries doing the rounds. I've not even started to dip into all of them yet, but hopefully I will do now I've done mine. So that's it for now. Do subscribe to Richard's channel. I'll leave the link down below, and I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.